Welcome to the D-Shift podcast, where we provide inspiration, motivation, and education to help you transition from the challenges of divorce to discover the freedom and ability to live life on your own terms. Are you ready? Let's get this shift started. Hello, and welcome to this episode of the D-Shift. And if you've listened to this podcast before, you know that I love it when I get to talk to people I know. And so I want to introduce you to my friend, Emilee Tucker. She is an amazing woman. I had the opportunity to go on a cruise with Emilee. That's where we met. We were part of a group, kind of a conference training on a cruise. And then we also then went to Florida and did a mastermind together. So we have spent days together. And she's still showing up on the podcast. So that says what a great trooper she is. So Emilee focuses on helping leaders, entrepreneurs, and high achieving individuals to really overcome that sense of overwhelm, reconnect with their inner beings and truth, and to find lasting happiness. And Emilee has years of corporate expertise and experience behind her. And her focus is really to help people to remember who they are at a soul level. And I love that. I love that statement. I love that mission. I love that passion. So Emilee, welcome.
Thank you so much, Marty. I'm excited to be here with you.
I am, and I'm excited to get this conversation going because I'm just got to make sure I keep an eye on the time because I know with you and I, we could just keep kind of rambling here. So I want to make sure we keep this on track. Before we get into all of the great stuff that you do and some of the tips and strategies you're going to work with us on, what got you into this area, Emilee? Because I know this probably wasn't what you planned on doing when you were, 6, 7, or 8.
Yeah, so what got me into this work, the crux of it all is I want to help people. It's part of who I am. It's part of how I've been designed in this life. And I thought traditionally I was going to do that in the corporate world on a way of in the healthcare. I thought I was going to be a nurse. I thought I was going to be able to help people. And when I leaned into my curiosity and I leaned to what my gifts, my talents, my insights were, it brought me into leadership development and I found a different way to help people. And one of the aha moments I had for me is I'm not broken and we're all not broken. So based on my experience, my roles, my talents, I found there was the best way to do that. And it's through the work that I do now. And it's from the outside in. And when we think about leadership in a way, we're all leaders. And I want to empower people to realize that's the case, right? So my journey has really been one of curiosity and helping others at the end of the day.
And that's, I say this and I'm serious. I sound like a broken record, but people who have gone through lived experiences and are not just speaking at things from a theoretical point of view or a academic point of view, I think have an amazing level of insight into, just all of the stuff that we are dealing with. And I don't know about you, Emilee, but I find like today more than ever, people are just at that emotional overwhelm level. Like if it's a 10, they're already at to mention Spinal Tap here, they're already at an 11, right? And there's no backing off. I mean, do you find that people are just way more overwhelmed maybe than they were 10, 15 years ago?
Do. And from being in the world that I'm in and what I've grown up in, I grew up in the technical world. Like I was just having a conversation earlier of keyboarding class was a thing, but it wasn't quite a thing a little bit before, and then it had evolved to those after. So the what we're exposed to, I think, is more and more. And just from a social media technology perspective, we have all these messages and overwhelm from that.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to transcend. You think about nervous system regulation, it throws us out of whack. So it's bringing up, in my opinion, our baseline just higher and higher and higher. And if we don't have the tools to push down that emotional overwhelm, and I don't mean push meaning repress your emotions,
Right.
It's managing that in a whole different way that we had even, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And I've seen that shift. I do find it's because of what we're exposed to.
Right. Yeah. And you're right about the social media. I have a love-hate relationship with it right now. I hate Facebook. I'm just going to say that. Somebody wants to sue me, they can, but it is driving me crazy. I can't take the level of idiocracy that people will just post random stuff like it's the gospel and nobody checks anything and everything's
Yeah.
AI generated. It's so frustrating now for people that,
So I have a dear friend, mentor, coach, all the things. She's my first boss, and I'm still friends with her from the age of 16. And we were having this conversation around critical thinking. And I think that also has impacted how do we manage our emotions, is how are we pausing and going, does this make sense? Does this make sense?
yeah,
And having dialogue. And the missing piece to all of that is the conversations. We're missing out on having conversations and being curious.
right,
So, if we're not curious, if we're not critically thinking, especially in our relationships, how do we understand what's going on? We can't read everyone's mind, let alone someone else's, unless we're asking those questions, being curious, and moving that forward.
yeah,
So if we're overwhelmed, it's because we're not releasing in some which way what's coming up for us. So, the landscape that we live in now, if we're not having the conversations of what, and I'll say the word trigger. I don't love the word trigger,
right,
but it elicits an emotional response, and we don't tap into why do we feel that way. We can't move through it, and it gets stuck, and
right.
it builds up and it builds up and it builds up, and it's got to somehow be released. And that can be where you're living at that top level of overwhelm because you're moving and busting that open just enough to release what you can to continue to move forward.
Right. And you're so true about the critical thinking. And the other thing I think that is more and more true is that people can't have a respectful dialogue simply
Mm,
to gain an understanding of the other person's perspective. And I know that you work in leadership roles and helping people create teams and all this and people have to feel free to express themselves
mhm.
and be heard and be respected for their opinion without being, become the target for everybody's abuse and emotional, distress because you have a different political or social or economic view than somebody else. And this is a really good topic. This does tie into divorce because a lot of times a couple, whether you're married or whether it's just a long-term relationship that breaks up or whatever it may be, a lot of times you've just got into your two positions and nobody's willing to look at any of the gray stuff in the middle. You're either on my team or you're against me. There's no happy medium anymore.
Yeah, and a line that I love and I use frequently is help me understand or tell me more, right? Because we are not able to understand unless there's that dialogue.
Right.
So you create more separation when you just simply assume.
Yeah. So this is a really good time to talk about this. I know this is one of the areas that we had kind of focused in on for this conversation. This idea that the words we choose matter.
Mm.
I know that that's kind of one of your areas of passion is to have people focus on that. Talk a little bit about that, Emilee.
Yeah, so a few words that I would love to share with your listeners to start thinking about so they can shift that. And the word but, when you use the word but, it negates the statement. And when you're thinking about conflict resolution or moving things forward in a positive direction, you want to be mindful of the words that you use. So if you say something along the lines of, that was really great, but you don't hear the good stuff. You hear what was after that's now negated, and it changes that energy dynamic in that conversation. And that's not the case. The energy of what that person is trying to express is there's something great and there's opportunity, right? So it's how it's also being delivered as long as you're using the words that really align with that. So I think just shifting out the word but can change the whole dynamic and outcome of the conversation because you're actually hearing and experience that conversation in a very different way.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna throw in an example here.
Yeah.
Emilee, or I should, I'm gonna pick on you, Emilee. I really
Okay.
like your jacket, but maybe white isn't your best color.
Mhm.
Compare that to Emilee. I really like your jacket, And I think that maybe we could talk about some other colors that would look great on you as well.
Yeah. It changes it. Do you feel that change?
Yeah.
Right.
Just switch but and. Take out but, put in and. What else,
Yeah.
Emilee? What are some of the other things that you think in this area make sense?
So, I can't and I choose not to. So there's things that are hard in life and we go through these journeys. It's also that mindset of, is it a skill or a mindset? Can I do this? Can I not? Am I choosing not to? Am I choosing to do something? And I was talking to a friend recently, and it was around exercise and working out and moving their body. And I was like, well, I can't do that. And it's like, well, are you choosing not to? Or can't you? Is it a skill that you can improve on? Or is it a mindset where you can move beyond that too? So it changes how you are going to show up based on that word. I can't, or I choose not to. And let that one sit in, because that can be a hard one. That's a hard pill to swallow. Like, ooh, I am making that choice to not do so and so.
Right.
That can be a really good way to replace.
Yeah. I love that one. The other one that I hear I talk to my clients about is I should. And that's
Mm.
where you can say, I choose to, or I choose not to, instead of I should do this, or, that coulda, woulda, shoulda sort of mentality. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't live in the past, and the quicker you move through the shoulds and the woulds and the coulds allows you to create better and new things for yourself. So that should, it brings you right back into the past, and your body keeps the score. So if you continue to say, I should do this, I could have done that, you're reliving that memory and you're not moving forward. You're continuing to pull yourself back. And we certainly don't want that for anybody, is to be stuck in those areas of the past.
Right. And do you have any specific language around when people feel out of control or feel like they have no control? Do you see any kind of language or any language patterns that maybe set people up to continue on with that victim mindset? Did you ever
Mm.
see that kind of thing come
Move
in?
them from victim to victor.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh, and I think I'm thinking of like a good example while
right,
we're chatting. And I think it's that you can only control yourself.
right.
Right? And you can choose how to respond, and you can choose how to react. And if we move you from react to respond, the outcomes are very different. So I think it's the idea of coming from a place of compassion and love. And I just had this conversation yesterday. You can't heal something that you hate.
Yes,
And if you say you hate so and so or such a thing or whatever it may be, fill in the blank, if you lead with hate, you can't heal it, you can't move beyond it. So I think even removing the word hate out of your vocabulary, like I hate this weather, oh, I hate this, and you start to catch yourself
yes,
that languaging it's negatively impacting your life ultimately, and it can leak into other areas. So simply saying I hate the weather, if you say, I really don't love this weather,
right, right.
it lifts you up a little bit. You may not like it, but you also can change the scale of the energy that goes into it.
Yeah, and I think this is really insightful because I agree with you. The first step is recognizing you're saying that. And if you find yourself saying something and then saying but, you can always say, "No, let me do that again." And just say it again. And put the and in there. Just see how you experience that differently. Now, you have a really interesting concept that I have never thought about, but I love it. And I want to talk about it with you, or I want you to share with us, if you wouldn't
Sure.
mind, talking about the idea of switching the idea of time management for energy management. And I think for busy women, this is a big one.
Yeah, and so I think before we jump in, it's knowing you and what makes sense is really important to this. And there's different schools of thoughts, and lean into what makes sense for you. And there's much more that I can go into on my platform of really what does this mean and look like. From a high level perspective, you can't pour from an empty cup, and you have to know how you operate best. Some people are really great in the morning, some people are great in the afternoon. And knowing where your energy levels are can really set you up for success. Regardless if you're in a corporate role or what have you, whether you're working from home, all sorts of things, understand how you show up energetically and where those best tasks can go. If you know you get energy from people, schedule that time when you think you'd have that most energy. If meetings are something that you need a lot of brain power for, be mindful of where you're scheduling that. And a good pulse check is when you leave either situations, people, going, how do I feel about this space? Do I feel lifted or do I not? And that's where you can start to reevaluate, where are you spending your time? Because that also impacts how you're living your life. If you continue to be in spaces that drain you, what can you do differently? That's a choice. Are you in spaces that are lifting you up? That will be able to bring more wonderful goodness into your life. So, to bring back to like the work environment, if you are understanding your energy levels, you can schedule a little bit differently. You can communicate with your team what makes sense, what doesn't make sense. Perfect example, Fridays at 4. Maybe don't schedule a meeting Fridays at 4 because you're cleaning up and you're winding down and you're preparing, and protect that space and that time just like you would protect your energy.
Yeah. And this is interesting because I do talk with my clients about this going through the divorce. I don't call it this, but I'm going to, and I'm going to say, this is what Emilee says, and I'm going to call it that
Yes.
energy management idea. But, when you schedule your mediation, when you schedule your appointments with your attorneys, if you're paying somebody $600 or $700 an hour for a consult, you want to be on the top of your game. You don't want to be coming in there dealing with all the crisis that you've dealt with all day, with the kids, with the work, with the ex, with the whatever. You want to have a clear head so that not only can you ask the right questions, but you can remember the answers that you get. Because unfortunately, I see women that go and talk to attorneys all the time and walk out and go, I don't really know what they said. I think it was something along these lines. Well, when you're dealing with big things, you want to be crystal clear, whether it's in business or in your personal life. So I really appreciate this. Yeah.
So, yes, bottom line, if you don't do well at 8 a.m. morning meetings, don't schedule those really important meetings if you can avoid it.
Yeah.
Right. And share with the people in your life of what feels and makes sense for you. Because
Right.
you can start to schedule of how you can show up optimally. Like I know I don't want first thing 8 a.m. or first thing like 7 a.m. for certain things. When you know yourself and you ask these questions to yourself, you start to change how you show up.
And it's funny. So this is a little off topic, but as you know, I tend to get off topic quite easily. So here it is. I go to a gym. It's a small little gym. I live in a very rural area. It's a wonderful little gym, but it's very tiny. And it's, there's not a lot of things, but they do a yoga class in the evening. They have Zumba classes in the evening. And a lot of people were asking for a morning class. It's mostly women were asking for a morning class. So in January, they implemented a 5 a.m. cardio class. And people that said they were going to show up didn't. People that we didn't know were going to show up started showing up. So people naturally gravitated to the time to even do training that worked for their schedule, for their body, and for their energy levels. So it is amazing how people will, if they listen to their bodies, they will self-select where they need to go and what they need to do. And that's another topic you talk about, right? Leaning into listening to your body. Let's wrap up the episode with this one, because I think this is a really important topic.
Yeah, I think historically we have been taught that our mind is what's in control. And in all reality, it's really our bodies that are what's in control. And if we pause enough to listen to it, it has a lot of wisdom to share with us. And we are no longer running away from tigers and bears. We have all these other things that can appear as fear. And if we think about even fear is something that we all experience for many different reasons, many different experiences, and our body will respond to that. You think of tense shoulders, you think knots in stomach, your shoulders forward, right? So if you're mindful and aware of how your body shows up, you can then start to change that. Oh, when I talk to so and so, I can feel my shoulders leaning in. when you have awareness of that, you can start to shift that, and your energy is then very much different. So think about where you can pause and notice your body. And what I would say is also practice that and tap in just even a few times a day. Check in with yourself and see where's your body posture? How are you feeling? And that way you can start to correct it, especially in those moments when you need it most, where you feel like there's something going on. And so I was just having a conversation with a client right before I jumped on, and she's getting ready for a difficult conversation. And I said, one of the things that I would want for you to do is to really make sure that you're grounded and you're feeling safe in your body. Because if you're not setting that up first, and then you're not on guard, like you're not prepared for that physically, it's going to be really easy for that person to be able to penetrate and cause more damage than good, right?
Right.
So it's mentally and physically preparing yourself, especially you think about mediations or attorney-like situations. How are you setting yourself up to feel successful in those conversations, whatever that success level may look like? And I
Right.
feel like ultimately we want peace.
Right, right. And you're so right, because even small changes in our physical countenance and our physical posture and everything signals clearly to the other person that you're uncomfortable, you're defensive, you're feeling guilt, all of these kind of things. One of the
Mhm.
things I think that's really I have to watch is the teeth thing, because when I start feeling stressed, I start doing that tooth thing, and you can see you can see your jaws moving, right, as you're gritting your teeth. And so you're trying to have a nice conversation, you're trying to be presenting with the right words, but your body is betraying you, or is betraying that, because people can see you start squinting, your shoulders go up, your jaws start clenching, and
Yeah.
and just having that ability, I love that, just pushing your shoulders up and back, taking a breath, and just refocusing is really helpful.
Your body will tell you more when you start to listen to it. Uh, I was just going to share something about other than the body. Your energy speaks before you do,
Yeah.
and when you think you walk into rooms, you can feel the energy. When you
Yes.
leave rooms, you can feel the energy. Does it feel tense? Does it feel this? Right? We may not know how to speak that language, but we all speak it unknowingly. So if we're able to be present in our own bodies, we have a little bit of more of control of that dynamic, whatever way it may go.
Yeah. Yeah. Great reminder, Emily. I love that
Yeah.
we covered all three of them. I knew
Yeah.
I wasn't sure we could get all three of them in, but we did. Um, Out of everything you've talked about, what do you think is the takeaway you want people to remember from this conversation?
Yeah, I think get to know you and how you show up and be aware, whether it's the words, the body language, and pause. I think the biggest thing is pause and take inventory of how you are showing up. Again, words, energy, so that you can make that shift. You can make that shift and show up in a better and different way.
Love that. Emily, you have kindly provided a gift for the listeners, anybody who wants to take advantage of it. I'm going to highly encourage people to do this, and that is to have a 20-minute breakthrough call with you. Can you talk a little bit about that and sort of what people can expect when they get on the
Sure.
call?
So this is certainly a gift of mine in the sense of I'm able to move people through to a breakthrough. So with the 20-minute session, we hone in on what's something that's coming up or a bother that they really want to be able to get beyond. And I kindly and firmly will ask you questions that will make you think, but you will certainly and listen to me and it will allow you to start to have a higher level of awareness, whatever that may be. So come prepared with a thought, a thing that may be of bother of any kind, and we'll start to tap in. I'll ask you some questions. That way you see my style and you also get an outcome,
Yeah.
which is really great to take on into that next level.
Excellent. And what a gift. Thank you so much. And people don't realize sometimes how time consuming these breakthrough calls can be, or strategy calls can be, but they're such a valuable thing to take advantage of, because you will get something tangible and usable, and beneficial out of the call, and you get to work with an amazing person like Emilee. So, Emilee, if people are listening and going, oh my gosh, I want to find out more about what she does, what's the best way to find out that information?
So the places that I hang out are LinkedIn and Substack, so you can find me on those platforms.
Wonderful. And I will make sure all of that information is in the show notes. Make sure that you go down there and book on Emilee's calendar and have a chat with her if you've got something that you want to change, something that's not serving you anymore in your life. She is definitely there to give you a hand. Emilee, thank you so much for being here and sharing your expertise and wisdom.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marty. I appreciate it.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to this episode of The D Shift. And don't forget to tune in for the next one. Thanks for listening and supporting the D Shift podcast. If you would like to attend live trainings by our amazing guests and have a chance to ask questions and get answers from our experts, join the D Shift crew. For more details and to sign up, head on over to www.divorcecoachforwomen and click on the podcast page.